Hey there, crafty cuties! This is a requested video from Yesenia. She is one of my patrons, and she is able to request one video a month, and she had requested to see a video making snippet rolls. This is part one, but this is going to be a really easy way to make snippet rolls, and this is actually the first one that I had created, but I'm really excited to share with you my process, and we're going to get right into it. We are going to start with some muslin fabric for the base of our snippet roll. You can use honestly any type of fabric or paper or whatever you have, you can make it work. I chose the muslin just because I have a lot of it. It's super inexpensive, and I'm showing you here that I just cut a little slit, and mine's about maybe 3 inches tall, and then I just tear it because I like those raw edges. I have about 3 different pieces that vary in lengths, and you can see this is what I'm unrolling right here. I am going to again be using this as the base of the snippet roll, and then I'm going to sew everything together. I have lots of scraps and snippets, which is what we are going to be using in our rolls. I have laces and trims, and this video, part one, is going to just show the base layer, which I'm going to call the fabric layer. I do use some trims as well, but it's basically just 1 to 2 layers of fabrics that I am going to just randomly place over the entire roll. I do have buttons and tiny embellishments that I've been kind of pulling aside and just kind of getting ready to be used on the snippet roll, and that's what you will see in the next part, where I'm going to embellish with different pieces like that. I am using my Tombow Mono Aqua Glue just to tack everything down. You're going to see I am going to also go ahead and sew things down as well. If you don't have a sewing machine, you can still make these, but I would just use more glue than what I am using. And basically I'm just going to get started, and I'm going to just pull out random scraps and even bigger pieces of fabric and random textured textiles that I have in my stash, and I'm just going to add enough glue to stick everything down. So again, I like using this glue just because it's definitely strong enough to hold everything down, but I've never had a problem with it gumming up my sewing machine or anything like that. This piece that I start by putting down, it's a really weird kind of texture, so I had to place something heavy on top to get it to set in place. I have this really pretty piece of lace that I'm just going to trim down a little bit just to fit on the next portion, and you're going to see, like I mentioned, I am varying between different colors and prints, and I'm really not thinking through what matches or what looks good together, because a lot of this base layer will end up getting covered up. The other thing that I'm not concerned about is overhang. I do try to get my pieces to be pretty close to the size of the base muslin, but number one, I kind of like a little bit hanging off. I think it's going to look really pretty just hanging out. I always like my journals like being full and having things sticking out the edges, so this is kind of that same concept. However, if anything is hanging over the edges too much to where it doesn't look good, then we can go ahead and trim it at the end. I wanted this first layer to go rather quick. While this video is about 20 minutes long, or unless I edit it down, it took me about 20 minutes to do this, and that was with me having a toddler nearby. I think you could do it even quicker, and so I think this is going to be a rather quick project. And to be honest, I know that some people are intimidated by things like these. The gal that had requested this video, she mentioned that she's been wanting to make some, and she was quite intimidated. And I think projects like these can seem intimidating because a lot of times we're seeing the final result, we're seeing photos of them on Pinterest and Instagram, and the final version is just beautiful and it looks perfect to us. All of the layering looks like it took hours and hours, but I can already tell that this project is just such a simple one, but you're going to end up with a great result. No matter what scraps you're using, no matter what different embellishments you end up using and layering it on, I think if you just kind of go with a mindless, what am I trying to say? If you go into this without overthinking it, then I think you are going to be happy with your final product. And what better time to do something like this? Like I said, even with my toddler running around, I was able to work on this. It is a little harder filming because I have to make sure she's not tripping over the tripod and all of that. And I had to make sure, you know, my lighting was somewhat decent. But this is something that I'm definitely going to make again, and I'm excited to finish this one. But back to the project. So again, you can see I'm just grabbing random pieces, and at first I had an idea to try and make this super spring because I have a bunch of really cute Easter and spring embellishments that I had fussy cut off of a printable, and I was thinking of just making this super Easter and spring, but then I realized that that would be a lot more time consuming to really think about the placement and the colors and all of that. And I think that I'll still be able to get that same result at the end. So I have this little tag that says be fine. At first I thought it said be mine, unless I'm reading it wrong. I think it says be fine. And so I thought that would be kind of cute to just get a bunch of difference. And I think it's the importance of just kind of grabbing and gluing down is what's really going to help have a lot of interest in this project. So I'm working on this first piece of Snippet Roll. As you can see here, I'm going to continue unrolling that muslin piece. And I think this one was probably maybe 20 to 25 inches long, if you are curious. And so this is not sped up or anything. This is in real time, but I was just making sure that my glue was, you know, gluing everything down enough as I went along and just kind of pulling it over to the side. I had this gorgeous like brown lace. I think I got it in a journal kit or something like that. It's really hard to remember where I get all of the things from, but so if you can see, I just pulled that muslin piece off of the roll. So I have several pieces. I thought it would just be easier to work in smaller chunks and then go ahead and sew it together once I sewed the base layer down, if that makes sense. Just going to add a piece of lace on this part right here. I was trying to make sure that my fabrics were not too thick, just because I knew I was going to be adding a ton of other layers. So I think things like laces and doilies are really perfect for the first layer. So here we go. I am going to let's see, let me hang on and figure out what I'm doing here. I'm doing this voiceover obviously after I filmed. So, okay, so next what I wanted to do was add a few pieces of fabric layered on, kind of in between. You're gonna see what I'm doing. I'm adding the fabric and some trims in between each section, if that makes sense, because I kind of wanted to make sure it was flowing together a little bit more. I don't know. Again, I am being mindful of that. Mindless. Okay, wow, I can't talk. I'm just grabbing, okay? I'm not thinking this through. I'm not overthinking it. That's the word I was looking for. And so I'm just grabbing pieces just like I was before, but just kind of randomly layering them on just to break pieces apart, because I didn't want one section to look too big. And then sometimes in between sections, I felt like I needed something to kind of tie those two pieces together. I hope that makes sense. So again, I'm using pretty thin pieces of lace and trims, and I still kind of am considering this my first layer because I'm going to go ahead and sew everything down as we go along, and I'm planning to do another layer of like laces and actual trims, but this was just to kind of get everything initially covered. To be honest, I feel like I did not even make a dent in my fabric scrap bin. I could probably make so many of these snippet rolls and before I used everything up. I have this really cute little daisy trim, and it's just like these individual little daisies. I've never known what to use it on. I think it's really cute, and it was super duper cute on this, and if anything, it they end up looking like little mini embellishments. So while I'm continuing to add the trims and things on this first snippet roll, I thought I would give you some ideas for what you can use these for. So what I am planning to use this for is cutting it apart and using it in journals for pockets, for tuck spots. You could cut one of these snippet rolls up into strips that would go across the cover of a journal. I mean, you can really use it in so many other projects, but I know a lot of us are journal makers here, so I'm thinking of journal ideas. I'll definitely try to have some videos once I finish my snippet roll and show you different things that you can use your snippet rolls for. However, honestly, it's so pretty rolled up that I think just having it to be a project on its own and its finalized project is just being a snippet roll, you could do that as well. I think it would be super fun to make a large snippet roll like I'm doing here, and then maybe cutting it up, dividing it between 3 people or however many you want, and sending it in Happy Mail. That way everyone gets a little piece of, you know, one snippet roll that you worked on. There's really lots of ideas, and I'm excited to finish mine again so that I can use it. Okay, so sometimes I am cutting apart littler pieces of scraps, or sometimes I'll just use whatever size scrap I grab. And again, I really wasn't thinking about this. I was just kind of cutting and gluing and, you know, just placing things down randomly. So I'm basically just going to continue this on until I get to the bottom of this first roll, and then we're going to go ahead and cover one more snippet roll together with fabrics, and I'm going to do that one just a little bit quicker. Okay guys, so I had to switch over. I had to switch over to a new start of this voiceover, and I have my daughter here with me now. And so while we are doing this repetitive while we're working on this repetitive area of the snippet roll, I thought I wanted to just check in and see how is everyone doing. Let me know down below, how are you being affected by what's going on? And Arlo wants to get in the crib with the kitty who is in there. As I think a lot of you know, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I was already at home, but I also am someone who really, really hates being stuck inside. I need routine. I need to get out. And so it definitely has been a little hard. However, I know that there are many who are way worse off than me just being annoyed that I have to stay inside. So anyways, let me know down below how you are doing. So back to our snippet roll. I am getting to the end of this first one with my, I guess, second layer of fabric. And so I'm just going to finish that up. And then we are going to head over to the second piece. And I did go ahead and speed this clip up since we are doing the same thing. But I thought you guys would still want to see how I chose or how I placed each of the fabric pieces for this one as well. So I did want to leave this clip in. So for this one, I was wanting to try to, even though I'm trying to make this quick and just grab and go, I also wanted to try and grab some lighter colored pieces. So I'm just doing so. This gorgeous rose fabric, I used this in a prior video. I think it was for my textile journaling cards, and I had like a bunch of different floral fabrics, like this rose one that I'm using up here, and I couldn't remember where I got them from, and then it dawned on me it was from my pen pal from Turkey, who she's actually probably was one of my like first subscribers, and so she reminded me that I had got them from her, and I was like, oh my goodness, that is right. And I knew I was saving them for something special, but sometimes it's really hard to keep track of all of the things that I get in the mail because so many of you are just so loving and kind and sending me things. You are all so generous. So yes, I was so happy to be using these rose fabrics. Okay, that what I trimmed off there was like a lace, I don't know, it was like a lace piece that had a really dimensional rose. And while that rose was pretty dimensional, I was trying to avoid using too many like actual embellishments right here at this stage, but I just had to add that little rose right there. It just seemed like the perfect fit. Now we are just about to move on to sewing, and I'm going to take you through and show you all the settings on my sewing machine here. So I am going to start out by using just a straight stitch, and my tension is at 2.5, which it always is. A lot of people ask me what settings I use on my sewing machine, and literally never anything special. I just kind of keep it where it's at. I never change the tension. And so for this straight stitch, I did change the length to 3.0. I think that's what it was. And I'm going to start out, you're going to hopefully kind of see here that I start by just sewing a straight line through the middle of my piece, but then I realized, you might have saw Arlo running through there actually, like in the background, but then I kind of realized that it might make more sense to go ahead and sew a line at the top and the bottom, because I did have, I don't know, I just wanted to make sure that nothing is going to come up, and so I kind of switched to going at the bottom there, if you can see that. And then the other thing I'll mention is I did use a colored thread for this part, which was like kind of an emerald green, really, really pretty. I wanted something that was just a bit darker, that was obvious that it was a stitch. And so, you know, if you want yours to be less obvious, you can use, you know, a lighter color, but I went ahead and chose a darker color. And now I'm going to switch it and sew a line at the top. I did decide to interchange my stitches between a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch, because kind of just at random spots, just again to have some interest. And even though we're going to be adding embellishments and things like that, these stitches and little details might get covered up, but they might not. So I just go ahead and sew down the entire side of this first snippet roll. And I am going rather slow just to make sure that everything is getting sewn on correctly, rather than kind of bunching up, because that did happen to me a couple times. So go slow. And then I had to go back through to a few pieces. You can see I am sewing on that little ribbon trim, and since that was in the middle, it didn't get sewed on. Now I'm taking my 2 snippet rolls and I am just attaching them right here in the middle. And so now we have one very, very long snippet roll. And again, guys, we're not done. This was just phase 1 of our fabric layer. So I just wanted to go ahead and roll it up just for fun, see what it was going to look like. We still have a lot to add, but it is just gorgeous starting out. Like, honestly, even at this stage, I feel like you could just be done. You know, if you want to do something more simple, something just as simple as this ends up being so pretty. But I'm going to go ahead and just roll this up just to see what it looks like. And I'm really excited for the next video to add buttons and paper embellishments and maybe even some little hidden pockets and tags. I have a lot of ideas, so I do want to mention I'm using like all of my ideas on this one snippet roll. Again, you can keep yours very simple. You don't have to go all out. You don't have to add all of these steps. You could just do one fabric layer and it will be pretty. Whatever you decide to do, I'm sure you're going to have a great time, and now is the perfect time to be doing a type of project like this. I'm taking this little bulb pin that I had, and I put a little charm on it, and that's how I'm going to close up my snippet roll. Even though I'm not done, I just kind of wanted to have an idea of how I could close this up. So that's everything for this video. Again, thank you to Yesenia for requesting this video. She does have a YouTube channel. I would love for you to go check it out. She will be listed down below. And until part 2, I will see you guys later and talk to you then. Bye.